The distress call began as a whisper through static, then became a scream. Across the Dominion's core net, Admiral Surat Vorn's voice cut through a dozen encrypted layers. To all command assets, Sector Karthos has fallen. Repeat, Karthos is gone. The transmission pulsed against the void, bouncing between relay gates already burning. His hand trembled as he adjusted the gain.
He had seen the feeds.
Entire worlds devoured, skies blackened with swarm signatures. On the main holotable, the Karthak advance glowed red, each cluster representing thousands of ships. There had been 24 sectors on the frontier that morning. Now there were 19. By the time the distress pulse reached the Senate archives, there would be fewer. His adjutant leaned in. Sir, the swarm is using light-speed synchronizers. Every countermeasure we deploy is mirrored within minutes. Then stop mirroring, Vorn said. Transmit this, full spectrum, all bands. Someone will hear it. Who, Admiral? There's no one left. He hesitated. The word he wanted to say felt forbidden, almost superstitious. Send it to Earth coordinates. The adjutant blinked. Sir, the humans? Vorn nodded once. Legends exist for a reason. Retention spike. They called it myth. It was memory sharpening its teeth. The bridge lights flickered as the ship's reactor overloaded. Another system lost. Crew members worked in silence, sweat running under their armor seals. Through the viewport, the Karthak swarm blotted out the stars. 10,000 ships, each the size of a city, moving like a single organism. Their bioplasma trails streaked the dark in patterns that resembled veins. Evacuation progress? Vorn asked. 73% complete. Civilians en route to the orbital platforms. But the swarm's closing, distance under 50,000 kilometers. He exhaled. Time until contact? 8 minutes. He keyed the long-range array manually. The screen showed nothing but signal decay. Priority code Omega, he said. Open transmission to anyone left on subspace. We'll make them remember. The communications officer hesitated before opening the channel. Frequency locked. Your message, sir. Vorn straightened. This is Admiral Surat Vorn of the Dominion's 4th Expansion Fleet. To any system still receiving, Sector Karthos has fallen to the Karthak swarm. Do not attempt containment. Do not negotiate. They consume light itself. Our fleets are gone. He looked at the feed one last time. If you hear this, warn the worlds of the core. He paused. And if the Deathworlders still exist, tell them the galaxy has forgotten how to fight. The broadcast went out raw, unfiltered, voice static, and the sound of distant detonations. Signal confirmed across 6 gates, the comm officer said quietly. Transmission spreading through the network. Vorn turned toward the viewport. The swarm was close enough now to see movement within its clouds. Living armor, feeding off solar radiation. Karthak organisms devoured wreckage mid-space, reshaping it into more of themselves. He whispered, Once, they would have feared the Terrans. Sir? Nothing, he said. They're gone. But perhaps memory travels faster than ships. A sudden tremor rocked the vessel. Hull breach, port side. Atmosphere vented in a white spray of mist. Crew sealed bulkheads with steady hands. No one screamed. Vorn steadied himself and looked at the nav map again. Red swallowed the last blue beacon. Erase the archives, he ordered. All Dominion strategic files. If we fall, they get nothing. Understood. He reached for the console, initiating manual destruct protocols. Yet in the corner of his display, a faint return flickered. An anomaly from deep void coordinates, unregistered, silent. A small pulse. 3 characters long. Sir, said the comms officer, frowning. Subspace echo on the outbound channel. Vorn's voice dropped. From where? Unknown. Origin traces to Old Sol sector. He didn't answer. Outside, the first wave of Karthak vessels reached the Dominion flagship. Their hulls gleamed like liquid bone. Energy spikes hit, vaporizing the outer decks. The Admiral's last command transmitted through a dying relay. Warning sent. Judgment pending retention microspike. They thought extinction ended stories. It only paused transmissions. The Dominion flagship broke apart, its fragments scattering through the void, each one still carrying a shard of the distress call. Light years away, in the quiet dark near Sol, a single long-range receiver blinked awake. Transmission detected. File open. Timestamp, 63 years overdue. End of signal. The void tore open in silence. From the fracture, 67 ships emerged. each one black as obsidian, their hulls reflecting no starlight. The Deathworlder fleet had arrived. They did not broadcast identification codes. They did not announce intent. They simply appeared, occupying space like inevitability. On the Dominion flagship Vigilant Crown, Admiral Maras watched the readings flatten his instruments. "Confirm that," he said, though every officer already had. 67? Yes, sir. 67 vessels. Mass signatures consistent with Terran hull compositions, dense alloy layering, magnetic trim fields. Maris leaned forward. "No transponders, no escort?" "None, they're just there." The Dominion officers stared at the display. Against the swirling gases of the Karthos rift, the Deathworlder ships hung motionless, perfectly aligned, forming an arrowhead formation around a central dreadnought nearly 12 kilometers long. Its plating looked burned, uneven, alive. Faint blue glows traced its seams like veins through stone. "Attempt hailing," Maras ordered. "Channel open. This is Admiral Maras of the Dominion Defense Command. Identify yourselves." The reply came 30 seconds later, stripped of inflection. "Terran Vanguard Fleet en route under Article 12 of the Galactic Accord. Observation rights. Non-combatant unless provoked." The bridge fell silent. Someone whispered, "They're real." Retention spike. They spoke like extinction itself had learned manners. "Observation," Maris repeated. "They claim observer status in a war zone?" "Orders, sir?" "Transmit our refusal," he said sharply. "They will operate under Dominion command or withdraw." Across the rift, the human ships made no move. Their drives remained dark, their positioning perfect. Every Dominion scanner attempting to penetrate their hulls returned null. It wasn't interference, it was absence. Maris scowled. "Run a thermal sweep." Already did. Their armor holds at 274 Kelvin, exactly ambient vacuum. No waste heat, no signal bleed. How is that possible? The sensor chief hesitated. "It isn't." In the observation pit, junior officers murmured to each other. "Those aren't warships," one said. "They're coffins," another whispered. "Deathworlders never built for comfort, only for consequence." "Enough," Maras snapped. "Dispatch escort drones. They'll comply, or we'll enforce inspection." Outside, a swarm of Dominion drones launched from the Vigilant Crown, their golden hulls reflecting light from the rift's plasma bands. They approached the lead Terran dreadnought at 2,000 meters, scanners alive. At 1,800 meters, all 40 drones froze mid-flight. Their systems went dark. "Telemetry lost," a technician said, voice breaking. "Every signal severed simultaneously." "Jammed?" "No, sir. Not jammed. Overwritten." On the main screen, the Terran fleet rotated slowly. No thruster plumes, no visible motion systems, aligning all ships toward the Dominion formation. The gesture was precise, almost polite. A Dominion captain on the side channel muttered, "That's targeting posture." "Maintain distance," Maras ordered, hiding the tremor in his voice. "Do not engage." From the Terran dreadnought, a narrow-band transmission came through. All channels encoded yet clear. "Coordination request denied. Stand clear. Observation continues." Every Dominion ship on the front read the same message, displayed in a human alphabet that hadn't been used in 100 years. Retention spike. Refusal sounds different when it comes from a civilization that survived its own extinction. "They can't ignore us," Maris said. "We control this theater." But deep within, even he didn't believe it. The Deathworlders weren't negotiating. They were waiting. Below the rift, the Karthak swarm expanded, 20,000 contacts now converging. Plasma clouds shimmered across the dark. Dominion admirals argued in comm channels about firing solutions, evacuation corridors, priority retreats. The human fleet stayed motionless. Not one ship powered weapons, not one maneuvered. Yet somehow every Dominion targeting computer refused to lock onto them, as if the algorithms refused to acknowledge their mass. "Sir," said the sensor officer, "they're deploying drones, human ones, tiny, no heat, no lights, scattering across our line. Purpose? Unknown. They're not transmitting, but each one matches our command frequencies perfectly." Maris felt the cold crawl through his spine. "They're listening." "Sir, the Dominion Council requests confirmation that the Deathworlders are cooperating." Maris hesitated, eyes on the display where the human fleet remained in geometric calm. "Transmit to the Council. Contact established." Cooperation pending. Should I add they refuse inspection? No, he said quietly. Omit that. The rift pulsed once, a wave of blue light rippling through its gas bands. Beneath it, sensors screamed as the Carthac swarm accelerated. Admiral, they're here. Maris looked at the silent Terran formation, still unmoving against the approaching red tide. Then we'll see what legends are worth. He didn't notice the faint hum under the bridge's audio feed, the encrypted carrier signal repeating from the human flagship. One word looping through subspace: calibrate. The first strike came without warning, light brighter than thought. Plasma arcs blooming across the void like false suns. The Carthac swarm unleashed its storm. 40,000 plasma filaments converged into a single burning wave that filled the rift with radiant fire. Dominion ships braced behind magnetic screens, their hulls glowing under stress. But the Deathworlder formation didn't move. The HSS Iron Requiem, leading the vanguard, took the brunt of it, 32 direct hits in the first second. Each impact should have torn it apart. Instead, the light dimmed and vanished across its surface, swallowed by layered alloy and cold geometry. On the Dominion flagship Vigilant Crown, Admiral Miras stared at the readings. Confirm thermal response. Outer plating temperature stable at 1,380 Kelvin, said the sensor officer. No breach detected. Hull energy flux absorbed at 93% efficiency. Maris turned. 93? Yes, sir. Remaining 7% redirected through polarized vectors, radiation venting along their dorsal lattice. The bridge fell silent. Retention spike. They were not enduring the storm. They were harvesting it. On board the Iron Requiem, Commander Vale checked the screens. Plasma streamed across her hull like molten rivers, scattering into ribbons of color. The crew moved without panic. Power surplus at 5%, said the engineer. Redirecting heat to internal capacitors. Reactors charging from residual energy. Vale nodded. Feed excess to the rail capacitors. Stay cold on emissions. Outside, the dreadnought gleamed, amber fire fading to blue glow, hull alive with absorbed charge. The Carthac continued firing. Hundreds of living ships, their organic cores flaring with bioplasma, poured energy into the black formation. Their pulses flickered faster, hotter, desperate, but every strike weakened their own reserves. Commander, said Vale's second, their plasma decay rates are rising, 6% loss per cycle. They'll burn themselves out, she said. On the Dominion side, disbelief turned to argument. Their shielding must be quantum-phased, one strategist said. No, it's kinetic mesh, they're redirecting the energy. That's impossible. No known alloy can— Enough, Maris snapped. Send telemetry to the Council. They'll want proof. Through the viewport, the Deathworlder fleet hovered like a wall of eclipses. 67 shadows against a storm that could blind gods. Sir, said the comms officer, the humans aren't responding to hails. They're transmitting something else. What? The officer hesitated. A data packet, encrypted, repeating the same sequence every 2 seconds. Translate. A moment passed. Then the screen displayed 3 words rendered in Dominion script. Observation continues, proceed. Retention microspike. Fire met discipline and learned futility. The Carthac adjusted formation, preparing a second wave. Plasma veins across their hulls brightened, venting fury. From their core ship, a beam 10 kilometers wide lanced through the rift and struck the Iron Requiem directly across its midline. The Dominion fleet flinched. The human ship did not. Impact magnitude? Vale asked. 17 terajoules. Outer hull stress within tolerance. Conversion yield? Total absorption 93%. Redirected through plasma veins. Hull temperature stabilized at 1,520 Kelvin. Continue harvesting, she said quietly. Let them think it hurts. The dreadnought exhaled light from its vent ports, a slow blue vapor blooming outward, waste heat expelled like breath in winter. The Dominion sensors misread it as reactor failure. They're breaking apart, someone shouted on Maris's bridge. Their hulls venting. Maris narrowed his eyes. No. Look. The vapor condensed into filaments that drifted through the rift's light, shimmering with residual charge. When the next Carthac volley struck, the energy scattered through the mist, deflected harmlessly into space. Their armor's using its own exhaust as a reflective field, the analyst said, stunned. They've turned heat into a weaponized shield. Maris's hands clenched. Who builds something that thrives on annihilation? Deathworlders, his adjutant whispered. Vale watched the swarm slow. They're recalibrating, she said. How long? Estimated 6 minutes. Then we move in 6 minutes. The hum in the Iron Requiem's hull deepened, a resonance that spread through the entire fleet. The Terran formation's lights flickered once, synchronizing across all 67 ships as if answering an unseen signal. Retention spike. Silence between storms is not mercy. It's measurement. Admiral Mera stood before the main viewport, sweat beading at his collar despite the chill. Transmit to all fleets, he ordered. Do not engage without authorization. The humans, they're not reacting. They're calculating. From the outer edges of the rift, the Carthac swarm withdrew slightly, reorganizing into hunting clusters. Thousands of golden biosignatures pulsed like fireflies in a night sea. Inside the Iron Requiem, Commander Vale's voice carried through the comm grid. Status report. All ships holding 93% efficiency. Thermal reserves optimal. Engines idle. Orders, Commander? Maintain distance, she said. No retaliation until they show exhaustion. Her XO frowned. And if they don't? Vale's gaze remained fixed on the storm beyond. Then we remind them why the galaxy called us Deathworlders. Outside, the fire dimmed to embers. The humans did not. The hum began as vibration, low, rhythmic, the sound of inevitability gathering mass. On board the Iron Requiem, Commander Vale stood at the forward viewport, watching the Carthac swarm drift through the rift's scarlet haze. Velocity synchronization complete, reported the helm officer. Target acceleration, Mach 27 equivalent. Vale's eyes narrowed. Hold at Mark 8 until all ships align. We strike as one. The Deathworlder fleet moved in geometric silence. 67 dreadnoughts, each black as fractured obsidian, reoriented their vector fields in perfect unison. Reactor hums merged into a single pulse that rippled through vacuum, bending starlight around their hulls. In the Dominion flagship Vigilant Crown, Admiral Maris watched in disbelief. Mach 27? At that mass? They'll shred themselves apart. His aide didn't answer. Their drives just went white-hot. They're venting plasma signatures equivalent to small suns. Then they're suiciding. Retention spike. The galaxy always mistakes courage for madness until the debris settles. Inside the Iron Requiem, inertial dampers strained under pressure. Bulkheads groaned, hull seams flexing by micrometers. The deck vibrated with restrained fury. Acceleration at 18 Mach and rising, said the helm. Trajectory locked through swarm central line. Vale nodded once. Begin the run. The human fleet ignited. Space folded under them, plasma contrails streaking through the rift like auroras. Carthac vessels scrambled to adjust, bioorganic tendrils flaring as they tried to reform their wall. But the humans didn't adjust course. They didn't weave. They cut straight through. The first collision wasn't explosive, it was surgical. A dreadnought's bow sliced clean through a Carthac hive ship, splitting it in two with kinetic energy exceeding 1.2 teratons. The swarm's symmetrical pattern shattered. Impact confirmed, said Vale's tactical officer. 17 enemy vessels destroyed. No deflection. Continue burn, Vale ordered. All ships maintain formation integrity. The Dominion bridge lit with hundreds of alerts as their sensors tried to track the impossible. They're not fighting, whispered an officer. They're falling through the enemy at relativistic drift. On-screen, glowing ribbons of plasma trailed behind the Terran fleet. Ionized wreckage and melted fragments. Each time a dreadnought breached a formation, it left a corridor of vaporized mass kilometers wide. Retention microspike. When precision meets momentum, mercy becomes the only variable left. The Carthac attempted counterfire. Hundreds of plasma bolts streaked across the rift, but the Deathworlder ships moved faster than targeting AIs could compensate. Every predictive model failed. Every algorithm broke. Velocity lock failing, a Dominion analyst said. Their paths, no, their intentions don't align with physics. Vale's voice remained calm. Speed reads at Mach 24.9 and climbing. Structural stress? Within tolerance. Armor integrity green. Good. Adjust inertial dampers by 3%. The crew needs to feel it. Her XO looked up. Commander? They need to remember what control feels like at the edge of chaos. The fleet surged. Carthac vessels collided, trying to evade, their organic hulls tearing against each other like flesh against razors. Shockwaves rippled through the plasma storms, scattering light into crimson halos. Target corridor open, Vale said. Set depth to 100,000 kilometers. Once clear, decelerate and reform behind the swarm. Mach 27 achieved, the helm reported. Trajectory stable. Through the viewport, the rift transformed into a river of molten color, blue arcs from plasma drag, red flares from ruptured Carthac cores. The human ships glided through it all, their hulls glowing like iron in a forge. From afar, the Dominion fleet watched in reverent horror. They're cutting through matter like it's mist, someone whispered. Admiral Maras spoke softly, not to his crew but to himself. They weren't built to fight like us. They were built to end things. Vale's voice came across internal comms. Mark vector correction. Formation Bravo. All ships, break burn in 5. Engines flared white as the Deathworlder fleet decelerated in synchronized arcs, leaving behind a wake of collapsing swarm fragments. Plasma storms faded. Radiation trails shimmered like dying embers. Casualty estimate? Vale asked. Swarm losses 2,800 ships. Human fleet 0. Good, she said. Transmit coordinates to remaining enemy clusters. And to the Dominion, tell them to stay clear of our vector. Her XO hesitated. Will they comply? Vale's expression hardened. They'll learn what obedience looks like when it's earned. Outside, the last wave of kinetic shock rippled through the rift. Fragments of the swarm drifted like ash around the black hulls of the human ships. The Iron Requiem's engines dimmed, glowing ember red in the silence after impact. Retention spike. Mach 27 was not escape velocity. It was judgment delivered at speed. Vale exhaled once, steady. Reform the line, she said. Next target in 40 seconds. In the rift's fading light, the Deathworlder fleet turned as one, engines whispering like gods returning from exile. Silence had weight now. Even the rift seemed to hold its breath. The Carthac swarm, once 40,000 strong, had scattered into chaos. Shattered hulls drifted like burned paper, organic membranes curling as they cooled. Yet the Deathworlder fleet did not pursue. It aligned. 67 dreadnoughts formed a single expanding arc, each ship positioned within exact meters of perfect geometry. On the Dominion flagship Vigilant Crown, Admiral Maris whispered, they're repositioning again. What are they doing? His aide replied quietly, I think they're beginning. The human fleet's transponders blinked once. Time markers synchronized across both armadas. Every Dominion sensor began recording automatically. No one wanted to miss what came next. Commander Vale stood on the bridge of the Iron Requiem, her hands clasped behind her back. All rails charged? Charged and primed, said Lieutenant Corr. 78 slugs per ship. Impact sequence locked to 6-minute burn window. Vale nodded. Execute under full silence protocol. No transmissions. The countdown began. Retention spike. Silence before justice is not hesitation. It's precision aligning with purpose. T-minus 360 seconds. At 0, the universe blinked. Every human rail battery fired simultaneously. Tungsten spears, dense rods the size of shuttles, launched at Mach 25 equivalents. They left no sound, no glow, only thin streaks of light tracing arcs through the rift's gloom. T-minus 355. 82 Carthac warforms disintegrated in the first second. The kinetic energy was obscene, each impact equivalent to 3 gigatons. Plasma vented like blood. T-minus 300. The Deathworlders adjusted aim mid-burst. Firing corrections rippled through the fleet in waves. Every shot coordinated to land with 1-second precision. From the Dominion sensor feeds, it looked like choreography, death moving to music too deep for mortals to hear. Tracking 1700 confirmed kills, said the tactical AI. Maris leaned closer to the display. They're logging every strike individually. Confirmed, replied his analyst. Each impact tagged with timestamp and velocity vector. They're building a record. Vale's eyes never left the viewport. Update. 3 minutes elapsed, Corr said. 4,500 enemy ships neutralized. Secondary impacts spreading debris through formation. The rift blazed with refracted plasma. Every strike left trails of molten light bending into the void. Retention spike. Every second, another civilization's arrogance vanished into math. The Dominion fleet fell utterly silent. Captains watched their screens, too stunned to speak. One murmured, they're not fighting, they're conducting an autopsy. T-minus 180. 7,000 confirmed, Core reported. Enemy cohesion lost. Carthac transmissions incoherent. Vale spoke evenly. Continue fire. No pursuit. Every strike must be deliberate. The fleet moved in rhythm. Rails fired in staggered bursts, 6-second intervals. The recoil tremors rolled through hulls like heartbeats. The dreadnoughts glowed faintly red from exhaust vents, their forms luminous against the black fog. Commander, said Core. Dominion channels requesting targeting data. Denied, Vale said. They wanted leadership. Let them observe discipline instead. Another volley. Another 100 ships gone. The void filled with vaporized debris. Iron snow falling through starlight. T-90. A-200 destroyed. Power levels stable. Human fleet untouched. On the vigilant Crown, Admiral Maris could barely breathe. Why aren't they speaking? His aide whispered. They don't need to. The Dominion's audio recorders captured only the sound of the Carthac dying. Bioplasmic hulls rupturing. Magnetic fields collapsing. Gravitational wakes spiraling into silence. And through it all, the humans advanced in perfect formation. Retention microspike. 6 minutes is eternity when death keeps tempo. Vale's console flashed final telemetry. 8,875 confirmed, Core said. Remaining contacts fleeing Vector 217. Vale exhaled once. Cease fire. Log final timestamp. The rails cooled, leaving only a hum through the deck plates. The rift dimmed. Fragments of molten debris drifted in silence. The Dominion fleet reactivated comms, desperate for data. Request casualty confirmation. What's their loss ratio? How are they? No human voice replied. The Iron Requiem transmitted a single document instead. A combat record. Line by line, impact by impact, 8,900 enemy vessels destroyed in 360 seconds. Each strike annotated with precision data, velocities, mass signatures, and yield. Maris read the header. Doctrine of verification, every kill accounted, every life recorded. He whispered the words aloud. They're auditing the war. Retention spike. No celebration. No laughter. Just record keeping for the sake of morality. The rift's plasma storms faded to pale blue. The Carthac swarm was gone. On the Iron Requiem, Vale looked across the viewport. Status? All systems nominal. Ammunition reserves 61%. Reactor surplus stable. Signal Dominion Command, she said. The sector is pacified. Prepare for retrieval of survivors. Her XO hesitated. And the fallen? Vale's tone softened. Even monsters deserve their data logged. The bridge fell into stillness again. The only sound was the hum of cooling rails, an echo of precision after judgment. Outside, 67 black ships floated through drifting embers, unhurried, unmoved. The galaxy watched in silence, learning what consequence sounded like when measured in seconds. 6 minutes, 8,900 ships, no errors. The last rail slug faded into silence. The rift glowed with afterimages, trails of molten vapor and drifting debris marking where a civilization had stood. Commander Vale stood motionless at the center of the Iron Requiem's bridge, her face lit only by the dim reflection of cooling plasma outside. Cease all batteries, she said. Her voice carried no emotion, only finality. All ships confirming ceasefire, Lieutenant Core reported. Rails cold. Launchers sealed. Fleet in hold formation. Vale nodded once. Transmit standard doctrine code. The communications officer hesitated. To everyone, Commander. To everyone, Vale said. Human and alien alike. Across 67 dreadnoughts, identical transmissions pulsed into the void. The same 5 words repeated in every known tongue, carried by electromagnetic and quantum relay. Doctrine of mercy initiated. Combat operations suspended, retention spike. Power command silence only when restraint proves real. The Dominion fleet's comm grid erupted in chaos. Admirals shouted across overlapping frequencies, some ordering pursuit, others calling for ceasefire. But humanity didn't move. The Deathworlder fleet hung still among the ruins, engines idling, guns cold, lights dimmed to gray. Each ship's hull radiated faint heat from absorbed plasma, a visible reminder that even fury could be harnessed, not indulged. Commander, said Core, Dominion Command requests clarification. They're asking if this is... A faint Vale's tone didn't waver. Transmit our coordinates. Tell them we are stationary. We will not fire again unless provoked. Understood. On the Dominion flagship Vigilant Crown, Admiral Maras stared at his display, speechless. They stop now. After this. His aide answered softly. Sir, they're transmitting Legal Code Article 12 of the Terran Accord. They're declaring the rift a humanitarian zone. Maras blinked. A battlefield. Declared safe ground? Yes, sir. They're calling for evacuation rights for any surviving Carthax civilians. Across the shattered field, human frigates detached from formation, small, black silhouettes moving toward wreckage fields and damaged pods. Instead of weapons fire, tractor beams extended like silver threads, pulling life pods and derelict shuttles toward safety. Commander, Kor said, watching her monitors, enemy escape pods 3,000 confirmed. We're retrieving all viable signals. Vale nodded. Every one of them. War's over the moment they stop shooting. Her XO frowned. Even Carthax biovessels. They're not built for peace, Vale's eyes hardened. Then they'll learn. Retention microspike. Mercy isn't weakness, it's the discipline to end the rhythm of destruction. Broadcast drones hovered between the fleets, streaming live across the Dominion's channels. Billions watched as Deathworlders ships, the same ones that had obliterated armies minutes ago, opened their med bays to alien survivors. Inside the Iron Requiem, containment corridors flooded with sterilizing mist as captured pods were docked. Dominion analysts aboard escort frigates watched human medics, calm, armored, clinical, treat Carthax soldiers without hesitation. Commander, said Kor, public channels are reacting. Dominion civilians calling this a restoration event. Vale didn't look away from the viewport. Let them call it what they like. History will call it balance. A tone chimed an incoming transmission. The Vigilant Crown requested live connection. Maris's voice filled the bridge. Commander Vale, the Council observes your restraint. Yet the Carthax have killed billions across this frontier. Why spare them? Vale's reply was steady, low. Because mercy is the only form of power they can't imitate. Maris paused. And if they regroup? Then we'll return, she said simply. But not before we've saved those who can't fight. On the Iron Requiem, med decks filled with motion, Terran engineers repairing alien pods, plasma burns cooling under blue medical light. Some Carthax soldiers hissed and thrashed, but no human raised a weapon. Status? Vale asked. Evacuation under control, Kor said. 16,000 rescued. Another 10,000 inbound. No hostiles detected. Log it, Vale said. Attach timestamp and life count. Dominion command relays recorded every number. 26,087 lives saved. 0 shots fired. Retention spike. After annihilation, humanity built order again. Brick by ethical brick. Maris turned to his officers. Signal all Dominion sectors. Cease all pursuit. The Deathworlders. They've already won. Vale exhaled once and gave her final order. Fleet-wide transmission. Humanitarian protocol remains in effect until every life is accounted for. Her XO hesitated. Commander, should we broadcast a closing message? Yes, she said. Send this. Discipline is mercy in motion. Across the galaxy, the phrase echoed through every channel. The Deathworlder fleet dimmed its engines, forming a silent circle around the rift, a cathedral of black steel and forgiveness. The war had ended not with victory, but with an act no one expected. Humanity refusing to become the thing it defeated. The rift's glow had faded to dim blue when the void stirred again. Admiral Maras stood on the bridge of the Vigilant Crown, eyes fixed on his sensors. Confirm that reading, he said quietly. There's movement behind the Deathworlder line. His aide checked twice. Confirmed, sir. 60 additional ships, nope more. Signature profiles match Terran origin. Before his words finished echoing, the stars themselves seemed to ripple. Space bent, shimmered, and then split apart. 60 human cruisers slid from invisibility like ghosts shedding shadow. Each vessel bore the same blackened alloy as the Iron Requiem. Scarred, unadorned, built for endurance, not spectacle. Their engines glowed faint amber, their positions precise within 1 meter of formation tolerance. They did not advance. They surrounded retention spike. Power, when truly prepared, never arrives, it's already there. Formation confirmed, Lieutenant Kor reported from the Iron Requiem. Outer defense ring established. 18 million civilian transports entering from Sublight Corridor 12. Commander Vale nodded once. Activate beacon protocols. Escort lanes Alpha through Delta. From the void's edge, dozens of civilian ships blinked into view, Dominion, human, and hybrid craft alike. Evacuation vessels packed with survivors from shattered colonies, limping toward the protection of the Black Fleet. "Make room," Vale said. "Every life that runs carries weight." "Yes, Commander." Corridor width, 30,000 kilometers. Defensive radius established. On screen, the formation unfolded like geometry incarnate. Rings within rings, each cruiser's position locking into a living wall. The black holes reflected nothing. They absorbed starlight until the entire defense line looked like an eclipse made manifest. "Commander," said Core, "Dominion escorts requesting coordination protocols. They want integration." Vale's tone stayed even. "Denied. We maintain independent control. Tell them to follow our vector or clear our path." Her XO frowned. "Won't that breed resentment?" "It will breed order," Vale said. Retention microspike. Mercy means nothing if chaos erases its witnesses. On the Dominion flagship, Admiral Maras watched the display in awe. "They already planned this," he whispered. "Before the battle began, before contact, this was the plan." His aide nodded slowly. "They hid them in the rift's shadow, pre-positioned for retrieval operations. Every cruiser is a medical platform or refugee tender." "Pre-positioned?" Maris echoed. "How long have they been waiting here?" "Telemetry suggests." "Weeks, sir." Maris stared through the viewport. Beyond the debris fields, the human ships pulsed with rhythmic drive signatures, each one communicating silently, without lights, without flare. The Dominion's own system AIs struggled to interpret their patterning. "Commander Vale," he transmitted, "we request confirmation. Are these reinforcements?" Her voice came back calm, cold. "No, Admiral. They're caretakers. The fleet you witnessed was only one arm of the response doctrine. The rest were already in place. Already in place. For what purpose? To prove that victory means control, not destruction." Below the formation, evacuation ships streamed through aligned corridors, rows of faint blue lights guiding their passage. Scanners marked them by number, 74,262 living beings in transit. The Carthac remnants, scattered and broken, attempted one last desperate strike. A fragmentary fleet of 200 biovessels emerged from the rift's far edge, plasma glands sparking. "Contact incoming," Core reported. "Vector 319. Range 4,200 kilometers. Vale's order was immediate. Line 3, intercept pattern echo. No return fire unless fired upon." The hidden cruisers moved like an immune system. 20 vessels peeled away from formation, accelerating to intercept. Their kinetic guns rotated, but they did not fire. Instead, they deployed reflective shield drones, creating an expanding barrier of plasma diffusion. The Carthac fired first. Plasma bolts struck the shield array and dispersed harmlessly, flaring into brilliant auroras that danced across the void. The drones absorbed the energy, redirecting it into harmless radiation bloom. "Barrier integrity holding at 97%, Core said. "No losses." Vale's eyes didn't leave the display. "Record their attack. Then open a channel." The comms officer nodded. "Transmission ready." Vale's voice carried across open space. "Carthac vessels, this is Commander Vale of the Terran fleet. You will stand down immediately. Evacuation corridors contain civilians. Continue fire and you will cease to exist." Silence. Then one by one the Carthac ships powered down. "Energy readings dropping," Core said. "They've stopped," Vale exhaled. "Escort them to containment vector. If they comply, they live." Maris's voice returned over the relay, hushed. "You give them mercy after all this?" Vale replied without emotion. "We don't give mercy. We enforce it, retention spike. Discipline is the only mercy that scales." The Dominion fleet drifted in orbit, awed and irrelevant. The rift's chaos had turned into order. Thousands of ships threading calmly through geometric lanes of safety, guarded by silent shadows. When the last evac convoy cleared the rift's boundary, Vale gave her final order. "Deactivate beacon arrays. Shadow the perimeter until final civilian transmission." Then, silence. The hidden cruisers faded once more into invisibility, their forms dissolving into darkness. The stars reclaimed their emptiness. 18 million lives saved. Zero interference. Zero ceremony. Maris whispered into the quiet. They planned mercy like a military campaign. No one answered. The rift dimmed to black. The Deathworlder fleet remained unseen, waiting as always. Behind the line no one else had realized existed, the rift had gone silent, too silent for the Dominion's taste. Admiral Maras stood over his holomap, the glow of evacuation routes still hanging in the air like veins of light. Then the alert sirens came. Multiple warp signatures, his aide said. Inbound Dominion codes, but they're broadcasting assault formations. Reinforcements, Maris muttered. And they weren't told the war is over. Across the void, the calm geometry of the human formation reflected nothing. 67 dreadnoughts and 60 hidden cruisers drifted in perfect silence, engines on idle, weapons powered but cold. Evacuation ships, 18 million lives in transit, still threaded through the protected corridors. The new arrivals tore through space like a storm of light. 2,000 Dominion warships, burning gold, exited warp in stacked phalanxes. Their formation sensors registered the Terran fleet and mistook stillness for surrender. Retention spike. Arrogance always confuses patience with permission. Dominion command to Terran fleet, a voice thundered across comms. Stand down your positions. Your humanitarian claim violates Article 6 of military sovereignty. We are resuming engagement. Commander Vale's eyes didn't flicker. They're our allies, Kor said quietly. Correction, Vale replied. They're uncoordinated. On the vigilant crown, Maris shouted into his console. Hold your fire! This zone is protected. But it was too late. The reinforcements opened fire. Thousands of energy lances converged on the Iron Requiem and her sister ships, burning arcs of gold cutting through the void. Evacuation convoys screamed distress calls. Every shot vanished against invisible walls. The hidden cruisers, still cloaked in diffraction veils, had activated Project Aegis, an overlapping lattice of magnetic fields and plasma dispersion nodes. The lances hit and dissolved into radiant clouds of light. Vale's voice cut through the hum. Shields holding? Outer integrity at 96%, Kor confirmed. No hull breach. No casualties, Vale nodded once. Broadcast this transmission fleet-wide. Her voice echoed through every channel, calm as a surgeon's breath. To all hostile Dominion vessels, cease fire. You are striking Allied evacuation lanes. Further attacks will be considered deliberate. No reply. More beams came. The Dominion reinforcements were deaf with pride. Vale's next words were soft. Initiate response doctrine. Tier 2. Across the human fleet, targeting matrices came online. Turret lines rotated in perfect synchronization. 87,000 kinetic barrels locking in one unified motion. Every system came alive with restrained precision. Select only aggressor signatures, Vale ordered. We answer ignorance with correction, confirmed, Kor said. Marking 712 hostiles. Engage. The void erupted, not in rage but in mathematics. Every shot fired in sequence, microsecond spacing. Rail slugs crossed the rift at Mach 25 equivalents, glowing faintly from atmospheric friction. The first wave tore through a Dominion vanguard line, 104 ships gone in 3 seconds, each one punctured so cleanly that debris fields formed symmetrical spirals. On the vigilant crown, Maris could only whisper. They're not defending. They're excising. Retention spike. Mercy, once tested, becomes surgical. Human cruisers pivoted with ghost-like grace, cloaks dropping as they moved. The Dominion fleet's scanners finally caught their outlines. Black ships forming a circular wall around the civilian convoys. The second volley fired. This time no light, no sound, only motion. 200 ships erased from tactical view. Commander, said Kor, enemy comms collapsing. Remaining fleets retreating to safe range. Hold fire, Vale said immediately. We're not here to humiliate. Her XO hesitated. But ma'am, they attacked during evacuation. They forgot who taught them war, Vale said. We'll remind them without making them corpses. The Dominion remnants powered down their weapons, transmissions flooding with apologies and pleas for identification codes. Vale's tone stayed level. Transmit full combat logs to Dominion High Command. Include timestamps, casualty records, and visual data. Kor blinked. All of it? All of it, she said. Let the evidence teach faster than fear. On the vigilant crown, Maris watched the data stream. 6 minutes of combat compressed into a single file. Labeled Response Tier 2 Surgical Correction. Damage report? Vale asked. 0, Kor said. No impacts beyond buffer fields. All civilians accounted for. Vale finally exhaled. Transmit our doctrine one last time. Across the comm grid, her message echoed through every Dominion ship. Humanity does not warn twice. Retention microspike. Mercy ends when ignorance refuses to learn. The remaining Dominion fleets broke formation, retreating into subspace one by one, engines flickering like dying candles. Silence reclaimed the rift again. Vale clasped her hands behind her back. Log all outcomes. Update Article 12 status to secured sector. Core nodded. Evacuation complete. 18,006,000 confirmed safe. Vale's gaze stayed on the stars. Then the storm is over. The Deathworlder fleet turned slowly, its thrusters glowing faint amber in the void. Behind them, the wreckage of arrogance drifted, evenly spaced, symmetrical, as if erased by divine geometry. And through it all, the black ships moved onward in silence. Unchallenged, unhurried, mercy restored. Order preserved. The war was over. But the silence that followed felt heavier than the weapons that ended it. The Iron Requiem's hangar bays glowed with soft white light as medical drones drifted between rows of recovery pods. Dominion soldiers, Carthax survivors, and even captured officers lay side by side under the same sterilizing mist. Human medics in obsidian armor moved quietly between them, checking vitals, adjusting serum drips, never asking names. Section 7 stabilized, reported Chief Medic Loran. Last Carthax bioform responding to treatment. No hostiles detected. Commander Vale walked through the bay, her boots echoing on steel. No segregation. They all receive full care, she said. Doctrine doesn't make exceptions. Yes, Commander. Retention spike. Strength is not the hand that strikes. It's the one that doesn't flinch when offering help. Across the fleet, med decks of 67 Terran vessels were transformed into sanctuaries. Chambers designed for battle triage now pulsed with life monitors and nutrient feeds. Over 18 million evacuees found shelter under the same black holes that had once burned entire armadas from the stars. Broadcast drones hovered, recording every moment. Transmission uplink active, said communications. Galactic networks accepting live relay. Let them see, Vale replied. Screens across Dominion worlds flickered from propaganda to reality. Billions watched footage of human soldiers, not triumphant, not gloating, just working. A Carthax mother, skin cracked with plasma burns, clutched her infant as Terran medics covered them both with thermal blankets. A Dominion lieutenant blinked awake in a Terran medpod and whispered, "Why?" Vale's recorded voice played across the broadcast. Because war is never the purpose, only the proof of preparation. Retention microspike. Mercy is the Doctrine's final weapon. Admiral Maris watched from his command room aboard the Vigilant Crown, speechless. They're streaming it uncensored, he said. Even their casualties, his aide nodded. They're not shaping the story. They're showing the truth. On Earth and across Allied systems, the transmission spread under one title, Mercy Protocols Enacted. Every frame was time-stamped. Verified, undeniable. Dominion analysts tried to spin it as theater. They failed. The sight of Terran Marines lifting alien wounded without hesitation dismantled centuries of propaganda. News anchors asked one question that spread faster than any missile. If monsters can show mercy, what does that make us? Meanwhile, inside the Iron Requiem, Vale watched the feed quietly. Her reflection wavered in the viewport, stars moving beyond the hull like slow embers. Lieutenant Core approached. Public response is overwhelming. Core Worlds calling it the Age of Restraint. Dominion Command has halted all operations pending reevaluation. Vale didn't turn. Good, let them think. That's harder than fighting. Commander, Core continued. Admiral Maris requests an audience, private channel. Put him through. The hollow shimmered, revealing the tired face of the Dominion officer. You've undone more with kindness than we managed with fleets, Maris said. Your broadcasts, they're changing everything. Vale's tone was steady. They're not propaganda, Admiral. They're proof that control isn't cruelty. He hesitated. Our people are calling your fleet saviors. That will terrify the Council. Then they should reconsider what kind of power they worship. Retention spike. Empires built on fear collapse when the audience learns compassion is louder. On the screens of 12,000 worlds, humanity's symbol, a black circle with a silver edge, flickered beside the broadcast tagline. Doctrine of Response Phase 3, Restoration. Inside the med bay, a young Carthax soldier opened his eyes and saw a human hand reaching out. For the first time, he didn't recoil. Vale watched from above and spoke softly to no one in particular. The war taught them what we can do. Mercy will teach them who we are. The lights dimmed across the ship. Outside, the Deathworlder fleet drifted over the tranquil blue arc of the rift like silent guardians. No guns, no threats, just endurance and order holding the line. In that stillness, strength found a new meaning and the galaxy began to remember it. The transmissions began as static, random pulses on obsolete frequencies no one used anymore. 3 weeks after the rift's quiet, Dominion and Terran sensors picked them up almost simultaneously. At first, analysts dismissed the signals as debris echoes from the Carthac collapse. Then came the pattern, 12 repeating intervals, each exactly 8.4 seconds apart, arranged in perfect geometric ratio. Commander Vale stood at the observation deck of the Iron Requiem, the reflection of her own fleet mirrored in the glass. "Source?" she asked. "Outer Rim," Core replied. "Beyond mapped trade routes, approximately 2.7 million kilometers past the last survey beacon. No known stations. Signal strength increasing exponentially." Vale folded her arms. "Amplify," the speakers hummed. Static sharpened into pulse chime rhythm, a sequence of rising tones that seemed almost alive. Every ship in the Terran formation registered the same echo. Retention spike. Extinction rarely stays extinct, it waits for silence to fall first. Across Dominion command networks, emergency meetings ignited. "We're detecting the same interference," Maris confirmed from the Vigilant Crown. "Pattern triangulates across 12 sectors. It's not random, it's a lattice formation." Core frowned. "Lattice?" "Energy web signatures," Maris said. 12 nodes synchronized, each the mass of a small moon. Vale's eyes narrowed. "So it's not broadcasting. It's waking. Data feeds poured across hollow displays, thermal spikes, subspace ripples, and gravitational eddies rippling outward from a single void cluster cataloged centuries ago as Sector Null 42. "Commander," Core whispered. "That's where the exterminator fleet vanished after the first collapse." 70,000 years ago, Vale said softly. "So the myth is real." The crew fell silent. Every console beeped in warning, an ancient failsafe buried in Terran doctrine code. Sigma protocol. External hostile AI detected. Vale glanced toward her tactical officer. "Range of detection? 2.6 light-years and closing. The pattern is spreading through subspace corridors, piggybacking off our own communications lattice. They're learning our networks." "Cut all outbound transmissions," Vale ordered. "We listen now, not speak. Retention microspike. The universe always hears you before it answers." On Dominion channels, panic set in. Core systems that had mocked Terran caution now demanded assistance. Reports came in from listening posts along the Perseid front. Outposts going dark one by one, sensors burning out before they could transmit. Maris's voice crackled over the encrypted line. "Commander, our fleets are blind beyond the outer rim. We need your readings." Vale's response was level. "You'll have them. But understand, we're not facing a fleet. We're facing design. Design? Something that doesn't need pilots to hate." She turned to Core. "Deploy the silent net. All Deathworlder ships shift to passive tracking. No emissions above baseline." "Yes, Commander." Estimated recalibration time, 14 minutes. The fleet dimmed across the dark, power signatures vanishing until the formation looked like a graveyard of lightless metal. "Telemetry incoming," Core said softly. 12 lattice nodes confirmed. Distance 0.8 light-years from known boundary. Energy buildup at each node, rising past stellar output. Vale's hand tightened behind her back. "That's not weapon charge, that's fabrication cycle. They're making more." "Commander," said Loran from MedDeck Link. "Core relay intercepting alien chatter. Dominion scientists are calling it a machine resurrection." "They're wrong," Vale said. "Machines don't resurrect. They resume. Retention spike." The galaxy finally remembered what silence was hiding. From the viewport, faint flashes dotted the far void, pale blue lines connecting unseen points in perfect geometric precision. "A lattice forming, slow and unstoppable," Core whispered. "Signal amplitude just doubled. They've detected us." Vale didn't move. "Then we make sure they remember who listens back. Prepare deep-range probes. Encrypted cores only. Send 3 through the rift's residual corridor." Core hesitated. "Ma'am, at this distance they won't survive transmission delay." They're not meant to. They're meant to tell Earth what's coming. Vale turned toward the viewport. The stars beyond shimmered unnaturally, light bending, shifting, dimming under invisible pressure. Commander, Kor said quietly, one of the nodes is moving. How fast? Mach equivalents 41,000. It's repositioning toward Dominion space. Vale's jaw clenched. And the others? Staying in pattern, waiting. She exhaled once. Then it's testing us. Maris's voice returned, tight with disbelief. Testing? It's a fleet of god machines. No, Vale said. A fleet tests weapons. This tests reactions. Across her screens, the numbers rose, distance collapsing, energy rising. The lattice pulsing like a heartbeat against the fabric of space. Commander, Kor said, voice low. Should we engage? Vale looked toward the black expanse where no light returned. No, we prepare. Humanity's doctrine isn't aggression, it's endurance. She stepped closer to the glass, her reflection merging with the stars. Transmit one line to Earth Command. Use the ancient code channel. Kor nodded. Ready? Vale's eyes didn't leave the darkness. Message reads, observation complete. Stage 2 approaches, retention microspike. Silence ends where purpose begins. The transmission vanished into subspace. Behind it, 12 nodes flickered in acknowledgement, and in the span of a heartbeat the lattice expanded, stretching its pattern toward human space. The second horizon had arrived,